What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Fight Network's Downtown Studios. I am John Ramdean alongside Robin Black, and huge news in the world of mixed martial arts, especially for the UFC's 170-pound division. We get to see the rematch between champion Tyron Woodley and Wonderboy Stephen Thompson, all the action going down at UFC 209. When we think back to their first fight, I know right now it's a new age of mixed martial arts. We're seeing a lot of these athletes with that traditional background really excel, but Tyron Woodley did his thing, and although he didn't get the victory, he still got to leave the venue as the welterweight champion. What are the positives that he takes away from that fight, the first fight with Stephen Thompson?
Well, for sure, my belt is still my belt, and that's the big one for Tyron Woodley, definitely. Also, the things that worked for him worked. You know, he got to him in round one, got him to the mat, and beat the crap out of him. And then got to him with the big overhand right. Those are his two weapons. Is he gonna add extra things? Of course he's gonna improve different tools, but his big weapons is that powerful takedown and that powerful overhand right. That A and B, those two options can freeze you, and either one can work, and he made both of those things work. He also got to learn a little bit of reality. Yes, you're training with some Sage North cuts and some karate guys, but Stephen Thompson is another animal, and he got to experience it and feel the timing and feel the movement, feel the rhythm.
For Wonderboy, you felt at the time that he didn't fight his best fight, that he could have been a better version of the Stephen Thompson that we've seen in the past. What adjustments do you expect him to make in this second fight?
He got the read too, man, and he's going to be able to take a lot from that. The big thing going into that one that we talked about is the change, the advantage, the fear that you may have of a Tyron Woodley is you can't estimate his ability to close distance.
How fast?
He's so fast, he's so aggressive, he's really technical too. It's not just, people will, oh man, this guy's athletic. Come on, get out of here. This guy is incredibly skilled, he executes technically very well, and he has that speed off the line, but he's tasted that as well.
Isn't it the layers? Like when you talk about Tyron Woodley, people talk about his athleticism, you talk about that, and then he has the technique on top of it, and the experience,
That's right.
and the championship mentality, and the fact that he trains at Rufus Sport and at American Top Team, so he seems to have all his bases covered.
That's exactly the thing, brother. It's the layering of all of those things, and we often, because we want to talk about it, it's fun to talk about these things, we'll zoom in on one. Oh, this one's about distance management, folks. Oh, this one's about power. It's always about all of them. It's always about how they all mesh. This one's also about rematches, and we can just gather any rematch off the top of our head and how different they are. You know, you got T.J. Dillashaw versus Barao. Barao thought it would be different. It was different. It was worse. Then you've got, Conor. Rockhold versus Bisping. Rockhold was like, man, I can beat this guy with one arm. He got knocked out cold. Then you've got Conor versus Diaz soon after. Which one was going to improve the most? Each one of these examples and every example of every rematch is different. So who took the most out of that? Who is now a better version of themselves in how they interact with the other?
What are some of the intangibles? You talk about Stephen Thompson and his abilities. It's mobility, constantly moving around, and if you get through that space, he'll make you pay, and he won't be there. Is the idea to get a better understanding the read and the feints and what is real from Tyron Woodley? Because if you don't buy, if he's not selling, you're not going to, you're not going to purchase it. So for Tyron Woodley, he tries to get in there. For Stephen Thompson, is it all about timing it and making sure that it's timed properly, or can Woodley just take his time and fake all fight long?
You know, I really did look at that. We heard from Stephen Thompson, who's pretty much of a straight shooter. Like, God will be mad at him if he lies, right? We saw him be a little too aggressive. And when we were watching it the first time, I'm like, why is this guy in Woodley's range? Why is this guy looking to take him out when he should be managing this fight? This is 25 minutes with a super aggressive, super explosive, super technical boxer and wrestler, and relentless, who uses that anaerobic energy system to burn, recover, burn, and it throws you off. And Thompson didn't appear to fight that fight properly for the first couple of rounds, and I mean properly the way he and his father would have wanted to fight it. So he can come out different now. And against Rory, for example, and Rory is somebody you want to just, you don't want to engage in close. You want to make Rory chase if possible. He was the evader for the entire 25 minutes, and I think that's how you fight Tyron Woodley, and if he does, he may be able to frustrate him, and that's one of those intangibles. You get a frustrated Woodley, he'll either hesitate or he'll be too aggressive, and when he's too aggressive, you catch him coming.
And what about the idea of understanding your opponent's energy systems? If you understand that Tyron Woodley is exploding and then recovering, aren't you trying to attack when he's trying to recover?
Definitely, and you try to manage, draw him out, make him burn some of those energy reserves driving into you, and if you take no damage during those, then you turn it up when he wants to be back out in active recovery range, and that is how you push and pull that. The push and pull is in how he plays with the range and the timing and the rhythm between the two of it, but it's also the push and pull of energy expression. And again, you talk about layering. Once you layer up these things, the smarter and the better martial artist will win. Who that is, we're going to find out.
When you look at the landscape of the 170-pound division, it wasn't that long ago that George St. Pierre ruled the division, but right now there seem to be a number of different players. For example, Tyron Woodley's the champion, but Rory MacDonald beat him, and he's not in the UFC right now. And Robbie Lawler had his way with Rory MacDonald. Johnny Hendricks has looked good, but hasn't looked good over his last number of fights. What do you make of 170 pounds right now?
Yeah, when George left, we were certain that we would see a lot of changing, and Robbie Lawler kind of put that to bed for a little while. He said, yeah, I get you. Yeah, there's a lot of parity. I'm just going to be too good for these guys for a year and a half, and he was. But now we see it, hey man, you and I just had a whole bunch of beers with our friends from Hayabusa and George St. Pierre back in Kingston. And George said he believes Stephen Thompson will beat Woodley. Now Woodley refused to be beaten in that fight. But, you know, Thompson won 3 rounds. If Woodley doesn't get a 10-8 in that one, Thompson was the winner, right? So George believes Stephen Thompson, once they learn and experience it, Stephen Thompson will win it. Then he went as far as saying Damian Maia will beat him. I wouldn't be surprised to see George St. Pierre correct in this case.
What's also interesting is Nick Diaz was recently, there was an interview with him where he said that Carlos Condit is one of his favorite fighters because of the way that he competes and just his mentality. Right now, 170 pounds just filled with some of the most dangerous fighters, and they all have unique abilities. Although, you know, everybody is good at everything, there's certain athletes at 170 pounds that have specific paths to victory.
Yeah, you're right. And when we say parity, it's because of the danger element of all of them. But they're not all the same. And maybe at 170 more than any other one, where we're seeing guys be able to be archetypes that are a little bit different. You know, you look at Condit, you look at Diaz, you look at Woodley, you look at Thompson, you look at Maia.
Yeah.
5 very different fighters in an era where, just coming out of an era where everybody was starting to become very samey. That is fascinating. 170, I mean, right now, this fight is brilliant. This fight is super important. And I felt this way last time, and Tyron Woodley, who I'm an enormous fan of, proved me wrong, but this time I still think it's Stephen Thompson's fight to lose.
Will we see a different outcome from the rematch between Tyron Woodley and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson? All the action goes down at UFC 209.